Almighty and loving God, we are ever so grateful once again for your love towards us and your presence with us. We ask now that you might draw us closer, that you might hold us and keep us, but fill us for the places you are preparing to send us. This we ask in your loving name. Amen. You may be seated. There are moments in all of our lives where we wonder, in the midst of that moment, can any good come out of it? We sit in the moment wondering what will happen beyond this moment. Truth be told, in every preaching moment, there needs to be an appropriate level of transparency. It was 17 years ago to the day I received a call while preparing for a speaking engagement almost at this very hour. Pack your bag, come to New York. Your mother's not going to make it. I threw things in a bag, packed up, headed to National Airport, grabbed family, hurried, of course, accommodations for the plane, only to make it to the waiting room. About to board when the call came. Your mother has gone home. It is moments like that you want to stay on the fringes, perhaps lean away from. And with all honesty, I wanted to lean away in a moment like this, as time and space put me in this place. For the first time, perhaps at the same time. Sat in the airport wondering, what will happen now? What will life be like? Can any good come out of such what for me was a tragic moment? I wish I could stand and say that I worked all the way through it. Perhaps my colleagues have been recognizing my unsettledness even for this moment. A great deal has happened since then. But even as we have listened to the gospel story, a great deal has taken place even since last night. A great deal had taken place since Jesus and his disciples gathered for the Last Supper, the washing of the feet. Throughout the centuries, from generation to generation, countless numbers of individuals and communities have gathered in moments like this to remember, to remind, and reflect upon what I might term as that Good Friday encounter. The crowd that gathered on Golgotha Hill were witnesses to a confrontation. Perhaps some would look and wonder what kind of confrontation, but it was truly a confrontation of values. In the Gospel of John, while following Jesus, the Gospel of John moves us from the garden of betrayal to a questionable incarceration, through a problematic and violent process, and places us at Calvary. The disciples of Jesus had been seeking to follow closely throughout all the years of Jesus' ministry, but now they had to face the cross. Following Jesus was challenging, as Jesus was always confronting the popular culture and always was confronting anyone's pursuits of uncompromising power. Throughout the ministry of Jesus, Jesus was preparing his disciples. He was preparing them because they had work to do. But in order to do the work, the first thing every disciple needs to do and needs to have is the ability to see. In that moment, sitting in the airport, I couldn't see beyond the moment. In that moment of receiving that news, I could not see any days ahead. In that moment, while walking from exit to exit, platform to platform, because I couldn't go back, I had to get on the plane, I could not see. There are certain things that even in moments like that we can do, but still not see. From the very beginning of Jesus' ministry, Jesus declared, "The kingdom of heaven is at hand." But let's be honest, many still did not see. Jesus spoke about the oppressed and the poor, and even the poor in spirit. But many still did not see. Jesus spoke about those that mourn, the merciful, the meek, the peacemakers, the strangers, the sick, the lame, the persecuted. And even as Howard Thurman would characterize, he spoke about the disinherited. And they still could not, and perhaps would not, or did not want to see. We're in a moment right now and in a day and in a culture where many are still struggling to see those who are hurting, those who are marginalized, those who are struggling, those who are wondering in a moment like this, what comes next? What will tomorrow be like? What will we face even in the days ahead? Here we are, over 2,000 years and a continent away from the location of that day, still fascinated, still intrigued. But many of us can say we've been transformed by that tragedy that would ultimately reveal the light of his glory. On that Friday, the Roman administration sought to challenge what the crowd could see. It was the hope of the governmental authorities and perhaps some of the even religious authorities that when the crowd saw the cross, it would limit what they could see. The cross had been an instrument of crucifixion for the governmental powers. Many of you know crucifixion was a routine, a ritualistic and public spectacle designed to warn, designed to frighten, designed to fracture the hearts, the minds, the spirit, and even any unity that existed within certain communities. It was an instrument used to destroy any beliefs in possibilities, any beliefs that might be in contrast to the acceptable or mandated ideological, theological, philosophical positions identified and given to the culture. There was a desire on that Friday that the crowd might see the cross, but somehow not see Jesus. That somehow the cross would overwhelm who he was. That somehow the cross would make us forget what is possible. That somehow the cross could be used to put down and not to lift up. The crucifixion and the cross was purposed to put some distance between Jesus and his followers. And if we're honest, it did, for just a tragic moment. The cross was used to get individuals to conform rather than to be unique, as they would be overcome with fear. They would be struggling with the reality of suffering. They would have feelings of hopelessness and ideas of helplessness, wondering what would come next. Jesus' witness was and is in contrast to and constantly in conflict with any force that seeks to diminish life, when Jesus came that we might have life. The disciples followed closely until some of them saw the cross. On that Friday, some went into hiding. On that Friday, some disappeared. On that Friday, some scattered. On that Friday, they all struggled. And like Peter, some found guilt in denying that they were even associated with Jesus. The disciples shifted their faith away from Jesus and on to the problems. As I sat in that airport, my focus was on the chairs, on the seats. My focus was on all the problems and the difficulties. And for just a moment, it shifted away from Jesus as I wondered what would come next. When we're not walking closely enough with Jesus to see, it does diminish our ability to do. Noted theologian James Canon emphasized that while many churches have focused on atonement as a cognitive theological idea, they have taken the crucified off the cross, exalting a sterile, stained glass propositional truth to be affirmed with one's head and not felt in one's heart, neglecting the full implications of faith in a crucified Messiah. Jesus has turned the cross, a symbol of death and defeat, into a sign of liberation and new life. Right now in this world, there is a confrontation of values in our country. And as followers of Jesus Christ, we must make clear to everyone the difference Jesus Christ makes in our lives. We must make clear to everyone that even on a Friday, you've got to hold on just a little while longer. Even on a Friday, there's still more to come. We all, as Christians and as followers of Christ, as faithful, must make our deposit in this generation so that we do not pass to the next generation a legacy of spiritual poverty simply because we've taken more out than we've ever put in. It's Friday, and we must stay close. We must stay close enough to see Jesus and be transformed by Jesus. And so I put the hope even in this fashion that a preacher friend of mine years ago, I remember talking about growing up. And we were fans, of course, of watching TV, and we were superhero fans. Those in this day have learned to appreciate Marvel Comics and all of the superheroes that were there. There were all of the superheroes, the Flash, of course, Silver Surfer, Captain America, of course, all of those, and Superman and the others. But there was something special about Batman that we appreciated. Something special about coming home from school, turning on the set, and watching not your cartoon character Batman, not anybody else, but many of you today, and I'll date myself, the tight-wearing Adam West Batman. Burt Ward Robin with the ill-fitting costume, and every day they would have to struggle against the forces that would be in the Riddler, the Joker, the Catwoman, Mr. Freeze, the others. But there was something about tuning in on a Friday that they always left you on Friday when the show would close. The announcer would come on, and as the announcer would speak, he would say, "Can the Caped Crusader make it out of this one? Will Batman survive this particular trouble and struggle?" It was Friday afternoon, but they would say, you'd have to stay tuned and make sure you stayed on and tune in just a couple of days. Same bat time, same bat channel. I'd hang on, I'd wait. We'd talk, and we'd talk, and we'd wait. And just a few days later, we would get our answer. And so stay close to this moment. Stay close to Christ. And in the words of a great hymn of the church, draw me nearer, blessed Lord, to the cross where thou hast died. Draw me nearer to thy precious bleeding side. Consecrate me now to thy service, Lord, by thy power of grace divine. Let my soul look up with a steadfast hope, and let my will be lost in thine. Amen.